Oh, okay.
Recognize. That's it. I don't think we have people over. I was thinking to myself.
Well, Doctor, thank you for allowing me to come to your home, your humble abode. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
The challenges dealing with visa or whatever is the scapegoat, the Liberia scapegoat. So
I was going to bring that up.
right, so Liberia is the scapegoat for everything. Now, the actual geopolitics behind Liberia, diamond cartels, De Beers cartel, France, Houphouët-Boigny, supporting Charles Taylor, all these things. But what you get is this very simplified story of how the black people out of the U.S. didn't get along with the indigenous black people, and then that's just the thing. So that becomes a scapegoat of, oh, well, if the black people come from the diaspora, then they're going to act like they're better than us, and blah, 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 blah. So I actually gave a talk at that AAPC conference dealing with Haiti, Morocco, and the AU, because Haiti applied to join the AU and were rejected, even though they are the reason why you can walk the streets in Africa now and not have to worry about getting kidnapped, because when they whooped that British behind, that's what they said they have to stop the quote-unquote trade of bringing people here. When Jamaica whipped that British behind, that's where they said they have to stop chattel enslavement altogether. So both of those are reactions to the British getting their butts whooped. So essentially, if not for Haiti whooping that British behind, we'd still be dealing with kidnapping, and all these things that are going on here. Now, just to bring it forward, when we're looking at the Liberia case study, and that's what I dealt with in the presentation, was after dealing with that, and then Morocco, where they're still enslaving black people, about over 200,000 black people, and they use the word abid, which means both slave and black interchangeably. So when they say slave, they mean black. When they say black, they mean slave. Boom, that's where they're coming from. And but they applied to join the African Union, and they were accepted with open arms, right? Because that's what all Africanism is about. Pan-Africanism means black people regardless of location. This whole All African Peoples Conference means location regardless of whether you're African or you're invader or what. So Arab on top, white Arab on top, black indigenous person on the bottom is what that whole situation is about. So at the end, I had to deal with that Liberia question, because I'm like, let's look at this thing. That Liberia is not separate from any other case of black-on-black violence, which according to Dr. Amos Wilson is black self-annihilation in service of white domination. So if you look at the war in Eastern Congo, that's about resources, that's about coltan. So you have, rebel groups that are funded by this side, you have Halliburton in there, you have all these multinational corporations. So you have black people who are fighting other black people, but we're dealing with that as though that's different from anywhere else, right. Which is Liberia. It's about diamonds. So De Beers and all these diamond cartels are the ones who are behind financing all these things. So you see like a movie about Blood Diamond, but then don't put it in perspective that that's what's going on. You have in Rwanda Hutus and Tutsis. So where are the diasporans there, right? Right. So in that instance, again, that's at the border going into Congo. So all those same geopolitics going on there. But then you have, so-called Tutsis thinking that they're better than Hutus. So where's the outcry? Oh, well, now we need to get rid of all Tutsis from the continent. No, that's not the discussion. But now that's the discussion of why we can't deal with diasporans on the level of citizenship, so forth and so on. So it becomes a scapegoat. If you look at southeastern Nigeria and all the unrest
Igbos,
there,
yeah.
Right. Igbos, Efik, Ebibio, you name it, whatever's going on there with shell oil, all these different lands that are polluted, where the diasporans there? Your scapegoat isn't there, but you still have black people killing black people in service of white people so they can take the resources away. If you look at the unrest in the Maghreb, so northern Mali, you remember that whole crisis that's there, where the diasporans there? They're nowhere to be found. Right. But what is to be found is nuclear interests of France. So that's what powers France is right there in northwestern Niger. Right there across the border is magically what is really being fought over. But there are no diasporans there. So basically that the Liberia case isn't a separate case or different from any of these other cases. Of some cases you have black people fighting black people because one thinks that they're better than the other, or this or that or whatever. But at the end of the day, it's all ensuring the survival of white folks for their white interests to take black resources and then laugh all the way to the bank when we're fighting each other over these things. If you look at the so-called xenophobia in South Africa, where are the diasporans there? They're nowhere to be found. And I could go down the list. You can look at Central African Republic. Where are the diasporans there? They're nowhere to be found. I can go down a list of 50 of these types of conflicts, and there are no diasporans there, but somehow magically Liberia becomes the scapegoat. So we have to disenfranchise those who were enslaved because of, look at what happened in Liberia, and if the diasporans come in their numbers, then we'll have another Liberia here, or so forth and so on. But it doesn't even make logical sense when we have all these other cases that are the exact same about the resources in the ground and pitting one black person against another black person so that they don't have to pay for those resources. So there are no tank factories, there are no bazooka factories, there are no AK-47 factories in the bush in Liberia. How's all that getting in there? Again, funding by the diamond cartels. And there's a good documentary, I looked at this, actually around the time the stuff was going on, a little bit later, called The Diamond Life by Guerrilla News Network, that really went into all the specific names of these cartels and their role in exacerbating conflicts where they already existed or creating conflicts where there were none previously. And you see it time and time again. So, to basically get to the heart of the whole Liberia question, it's just the exact same thing over and over again. But then it just becomes a way to disenfranchise those and not feel bad about it at the end of the day, because now we have a narrative that allows us to be fundamentally unjust.
So is it fair, because I get called decisive when I bring this up. If black Americans were to come together and demand their own separate nation state in Africa, their own land, to govern themselves, what are your thoughts on that? Is that something that we should fight for or bring up, or just let it go and integrate into an African society? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I don't think anyone who considers themselves to be American should be anywhere close to anything.
Okay.
So if you consider yourself to be American, to me, it means that you're very lost, right? As I was mentioning before, so if you are American, you wouldn't be catching all the hell that you're catching, and I was quoting Malcolm X on that point before. And the whole point of convincing us that we should call ourselves black Americans is to separate ourselves from other black people. So essentially what needs to happen, in my view, is that all black people need to come together on the basis of being black in order to deal with our white enemies, period. If we have something called a black American or an Afro-Brazilian or a Ghanaian or a Nigerian, or on the smaller level, a Yoruba or Igbo or Hausa, all of these things are just, how would I put it? They're
Counterproductive.
They're not getting to the root of the problem, and rather they're exacerbating the problem and continuing the problem. The problem at the time of enslavement, picture this, and people would say, oh, picture if we all came together to fight these white folks. We'd have a different course of history. Africa would look totally different if we said, look, we're all black. Let's stop trying to say, all right, the Dutch are my trading partners, the Danes are my trading partners, the British are my trading partners, blah, blah. Well, guess what? They didn't invite none of y'all black behinds to the Berlin Conference, so that tells you what your trading partner does for you, right? They said at the Berlin Conference, we're all white people, and we're coming together on the basis of we're all white, and we have a common policy for all of y'all black people. So what does that tell us? That tells us that if we're going to defend ourselves, then we need to defend ourselves on the basis of what we have in common. It would be like, okay, because someone punched me in my jaw, but because my right hand wasn't hit directly, I'm not going to fight back. Or they didn't step on my toes, so I'm not going to kick you or run away or do anything because my feet aren't the ones that are in danger. Once you understand this is all one black whole, one black body, then we will fight together as a black body on the basis of, look, we belong to one thing. But as long as there's something called a black American, there's a reason why that terminology of whatever American is popular now, because it subverts the idea of black. So at one point in time, not too long ago, and before, you had people who were enslaved. You have a place called Igbo Landing in South Carolina, so you had Igbos there, you have Akans there, you have Yoruba there, you have Fon there, you have Ga there, you have Wolof there, you have Congo there. You have all types of black people there, but they all go there and they come to realize, look, we come together on the basis of, look, we're all African, we're all Negroes, we're all black people. So on that basis, that's how we need to fight, that's how we need to move, that's how we need to organize. But that's not very helpful for white people because they will not survive if we do that. So they need to convince us to have an identity called something like Black American, a type of American. So once you accept that identity, well, now what does this type of American do? Because American, that's the noun, so this right-headed. So now black just becomes an adjective to describe this noun. So what does an American do? What does a white American do? A black American do? So Americans celebrate 4th of July. So because I'm a black version of that, then I need to celebrate the 4th of July. Because I'm a black version of that, that means I need to do X, Y, and Z. I need to fight in the military on behalf of these pale white enemies who are destroying my people throughout the world. So the whole point of convincing us to have these teeny tiny fragment identities is to prevent us from saying, at the end of the day, we're all black people. We need to come together on the basis of we're all black people. Again, the fragment thing, we've seen how well that's worked. Has that worked well for us? Fragments?
No.
So all the white people in the entire world are coming together on the basis of being white, and now we try to fight them one-on-one, right? So the Asante are now fighting against them, and now Dahomey is fighting against them, and they get defeated. Now Benin Kingdom is fighting against them, they get defeated. All these teeny tiny fragments are fighting against all white people put together, combined. How's that working for you so far?
It doesn't work at all.
If it's not working for you, let's not continue with the exact same thing. There's a quote that sometimes is attributed to Einstein, but it's actually not from him, it's anonymous. But just this idea of doing the same thing over and over.
Insanity.
And expecting different results. Now, that's not the best definition of insanity as a whole, because it may incorporate more than that. But it's certainly an example of insane behavior. If we see the last 1,000 times we tried that, we got defeated, we got killed, so forth and so on. Let's try doing the opposite. So we could look at the first time that we said, let's come together on the basis of we're all black people, and that's Kemet. So Kemet is lasting for, at the low end, at least 3,000 years as a nation state. We're saying this is the land of black people. Everybody, we're all Kemet to you. We're all black people. So that's a better track record for my money than saying, all right, let's come together on the basis of, all right, we're all. And when Kemet falls, you have all these competing, dynasties. So now this one is fighting against this one, so forth and so on. You have these intermediate periods. The first intermediate period is about internal fighting, right? As opposed to saying, remember, we're all black people. The very first military document in history of Kemet, beyond just, I have this title, I have this rank, the autobiography of Winnie, talks about bringing together upper and lower Kemet from Medinit all the way to Abju, Kenset, Jeru, Wawat Nubians, Irjet Nubians, every single kind of black person to take military action against these pale white Eurasians, right? So that gives us a hint of how long this thing has been going on. This isn't, after enslavement, then blah, blah, blah. This is from the very beginning of recorded history has been this ongoing thing. You can read about it also in Destruction of Black Civilization. I'm writing a book on it called The Ancient African Origins of Pan-Africanism, meaning the black Pan-Africanism. Kemet, black people coming together on the basis of being black is what it's all about. But again, the destruction of black civilization is when we stop operating on that principle, when usually Jehudi Mess is a fall guy for this, for marrying in these Eurasians, bringing them into the court, allowing them to migrate in, where before that you have Amenemhat building the walls of the ruler that are made to trample the sand-dwelling Bedouins, right, sand-faring Bedouins. All these sides. So the policy is keep these Eurasians out. Anytime they come in, they bring death, destruction, rape, pillage, plunder. So let's keep them out. When we allow them to come in, that's already the end of your civilization. So in my view, again, the best thing is, look, we're all black people. The fragments, forget that.
So get rid of the borders, everything.
It depends on what borders we're talking about, because we have some pale white Eurasian invaders who are inside of Africa, which are these so-called Arabs, right? Mm-hmm. We got Bedouins, you got white Berbers. So for you to become white, it means that there was some mutation in a specific gene called SLC24A5. You went through a worm glaciation and now you came back. There's a documentary I referenced called Black Mummy of the Green Sahara, and there's a whole host of scholarship that buttresses that. But basically it goes into modern-day Libya, southwestern Libya. The earliest case of mummification there, it was in the Caucasus Mountains, southwestern Libya again, and it was a black mummy, a black boy. So this tells us at one point in time, this is about 5,600 years ago, Libya was populated by black people. So if you go there now and you see all these pale white Eurasians, they are recent invaders. Again, we have to understand that these are invaders. So when I'm talking about get rid of borders, I'm not saying, oh, let's go be lovey-dovey with our very first colonists, enslavers, enemies, the same exact pale white Eurasian enemy. The only problem that they ever have amongst each other is who is going to conquer the land and resources of black people. So I'm not saying, oh, let's get rid of all borders and now let's let the Arabs in. That if we're going to do anything on the basis of we're all black people, one of the first things we need to do is deal with these invaders, our very first invaders, colonizers, and enemies who are still on occupied territory. When we say Kemet, usually we think about Kemet as the narrow nation state, but Kemet in the sense of what it actually means, which is land of black people. So if we are in what we now call Africa, that's the land of black people, right? In the broader sense of the land of black people. So the degree to which you find non-black people here in this land is the degree to which you have invaders on your land, and we need to do something about those invaders who are on our land. I have some suggestions as far as that goes as well. One is they don't need to be on our land, and then we can talk about methods to accomplish that.
You want to talk about the methods, or that's something behind a closed door meeting?
That's behind a closed door meeting.
Okay.
We can discuss the methods.
Okay. All right.